Hey guys, I'm back with February 2026 Radiance Films US membership releases, plus another transmission title that I added to my shipment. This one actually arrived pretty quickly, just under a week, and it landed mid-month, so shipping was even smoother this time around. This is only the second month, but I'm already enjoying this subscription, and now I'm really looking forward to the release announcements. Every month feels like a small film school delivery at my doorstep, and February is a pretty strong mix of epic tragedy, sprawling Yakuza crime, and pure movie industry madness. So let's get into it. First up is Iphigenia. I've heard a lot of pronunciations. It seems to be the most common one that I've heard. I can't say I've explored Greek cinema very deeply, but with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey coming later this year, this feels like the perfect time to visit some classic myth on screen. This film is directed by Michael Kakoyannis, and he's best known internationally for Zorba the Greek. But he also made a trilogy of adaptations based on Euripides. Iphigenia is the third of those and adapts the tragic myth of Agamemnon as he's forced to sacrifice his daughter in order to appease the gods and sail to Troy. Kakoyannis was a major figure in bringing Greek tragedy to international cinema audiences. His work often blends theatrical staging with cinematic scale, and he had a knack for turning classical texts into emotionally immediate films rather than dusty museum pieces. This one was nominated for the Palme d'Or and the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film. So it wasn't just culturally significant, but it was internationally recognized at the time. The premise of this one is pretty devastating. Agamemnon must choose between family and duty, and he attempts to conceal the true nature of his decision from his wife, Clytemnestra, played by Irene Papas. That tension, public obligation versus private horror, feels timeless. This Radiance edition features a new HD transfer, archival canned footage from 1977, interviews with Kakoyannis and Papas, plus a new conversation with a Greek film scholar. Looks like there's newly improved subtitle translations, and the usual limited edition packaging with a booklet. If you're trying to picture the tone of this movie, think something in the realm of Pasolini's mythological films, or even a stripped-down tragic version of something like Ran. Grand themes, but intensely personal stakes. Should be a good watch. Next up is probably the headline release for US members this month, the Japanese Godfather trilogy. Anytime Radiance drops a rigid box set, it automatically feels like an event. And this one's gonna look fantastic on the shelf. So these films were directed by Sadao Nakajima, a Toei studio specialist in Yakuza crime. Nakajima worked extensively within Japan's crime genre boom of the 70s, but what makes this trilogy interesting is that it's based on a true story of Japan's largest crime syndicate during the period when Japan was transforming into an economic superpower. So this isn't just street-level crime. It's corporate ambition, political connections, and organized crime modernizing itself, which gives it a slightly different flavor than other entries in the genre. The cast is also stacked with legends: Koji Tsuruta, Bunta Sugawara, Sonny Chiba. If you've seen Battles Without Honor and Humanity, that's kind of the space that this movie operates in, but with a more institutional, almost epic sweep. Looks like Radiance presents all three films in high definition for the first time on Blu-ray. There's archival interviews, new appreciations, improved subtitles, and a booklet featuring writing from Tom Mez and others. Oh, and just like Iphigenia, this one's also limited to 3,000 copies. This one comes in a rigid box with Scanavo cases and an Obi strip. It's a serious package. Having lived in Japan for a while, I also get a little extra enjoyment from seeing familiar locations or cultural textures show up on screen. Japanese crime cinema has a very specific rhythm and intensity, and I'm excited to finally dig into this trilogy. If you need a comparison point, think, of course, of The Godfather in terms of a generational crime drama. But stylistically, I think it's closer to Kinji Fukasaku's Yakuza films. It's political, cynical, and very aware of the power structure shifting beneath the surface. And finally, the transmission title that I just had to add, The Stuntman. I'm a sucker for movies that feature movie making, and this one has been on my radar for a while. Directed by Richard Rush, it stars Steve Railsback as a Vietnam drifter who who hides out on a film set by posing as a stunt double. Peter O'Toole plays the larger-than-life film director overseeing the production. Rush was a pretty fascinating filmmaker. He was unconventional, ambitious, and always battling the studios. The stuntman became something of a cult legend based partly on its troubled release history, despite being nominated for 3 Academy Awards, including Best Director. But the film blurs the line between reality and illusion. What's performance, what's manipulation, what's authentic? Peter O'Toole reportedly considered this one of his favorite performances, and many critics definitely rank it among his best. Once again, it looks like Transmission went all in on this release. There's a brand new 4K restoration in Dolby Vision, both UHD and Blu-ray versions, multiple archival interviews, and a feature-length making-of documentary that runs over 2 hours. Can't wait to watch that. And of course, there's new commentaries, deleted scenes, and a 40-page booklet. Again, it's in a rigid box, presented with lobby cards and a mini poster. It gets the very premium treatment. If you're trying to place this movie tonally, think of something like Day for Night meets The Player, but with a slightly more chaotic 1980s energy and a dash of existential paranoia. This is going to be a fun one. So that wraps up February's releases, plus the one I added. Iphigenia brings classical tragedy, The Japanese Godfather brings sprawling Yakuza crime, and The Stuntman gives us meta-cinematic mayhem. These are all available as standalone purchases as well, but what's good about the subscription is that it feels like a really good way to discover films that you or I probably wouldn't pick up otherwise. Like I said, now I'm curious about the next month's announcements, and at this point, I'm officially invested. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next month.